How's it going, my dudes? This is Math Time with Mr. Gardner. Today we're going to be learning about solving quadratic equations using graphs and tables. In order to solve quadratic equations, the first thing we have to do is put it into our standard form. After getting into our standard form, we have to find the vertex, the y-intercept, and the x-intercept. These 3 points will help us create our parabola. As a quick reminder, to get our vertex, the first thing we have to do is plug it into our equation of negative b over 2a, but this will only give us our axis of symmetry. We then have to go back and plug it in to our standard form equation to find the y value, and that will be our vertex. Just so that we have a reminder, our y-intercept is in vertex form. It's the very last term, our c term. That's going to be our y-intercept. But today's big concept is to find the x-intercept. Some textbooks might call this the zero. Some might call it finding the answer to the function. Some might call it the solution to the function. And some might call it the x-intercept. But all these names mean the same thing. The first thing we have to do, though, is set our equation equal to 0. The reason we do this is saying that y is equal to 0, which makes sense. When y is equal to 0, then we can find where our x values are. And this is going to be typical for most our parabolas as it crosses the y-intercept twice. After we set equal to 0, we're going to factor what's left and set those equal to 0. After we have both parts set equal to 0, we're going to set each factor is equal to 0. And this is going to help us find our x-intercepts, because each factor is going to be equal to an x-intercept. So then I'm just going to solve for x. So these two numbers of x equals 5 and x equals negative 1, both of these are going to be my zeros. So for my poor example that I drew here, this would be negative 1 and this would be 5. So my x-intercepts would be when x is negative 1, y is 0, and when x is 5, y is also 0 again. And both of these are going to be my solutions, my zeros, my x-intercepts. Alright, for our next example though, it's not set equal to 0. So the first thing we have to do is get the one side of the equation set so that is equal to 0. Now that we have this, we can now factor. Now that we've factored, we can set both equations equal to 0. And then we just solve. So my x-intercepts, or my solutions to this, are when x is 8 or 3. That's all we got for today. Be kind to each other, ask questions, and think deeply.